Each badger marks the track with its own scent.
His black legs are short but very powerful for digging. The name badger probably comes from the French word bêcher, meaning digger.
And hello everybody, welcome along. It's another edition of the Cricket Badger podcast. Been looking forward to doing this one because to the right on my screen here anyway, Kevin O'Brien, former Ireland. Should I say good morning or should I say buongiorno these days?
Good morning's okay, yeah. But my it's very small at the moment, but I'm trying to learn a bit more. But so buongiorno to everybody watching.
We won't do this in Italian because basically we've exhausted my Italian already. But really good to have you on the Cricket Badger podcast. I've kind of watched you for a long time. We've never met, so it's very good to meet you. But the Ireland cricket, we'll start there. Irish cricket. When I was growing up, Irish cricket wasn't a thing, really. I mean, it obviously was, but it wasn't in my head. I was watching England. I was growing up as an English lad. And then you started to make waves on the international scene, and your name was always seemed to be at the forefront of that. You must be, looking back at your career, you must be quite proud with your input into Irish cricket and how you kind of took it on.
Yeah, I think growing up in a house, 6 kids who obviously followed cricket because of dad. Dad played for Ireland as well, so cricket was really in our blood from a very early age. And obviously having Niall, a couple of years older than me, we had a lot of test matches in the garden, in the front garden with each other. Growing up as two sports mad kids and in a sports mad family. So yeah, cricket, for me anyway, it was a bit of a late bloomer. I probably wasn't as obviously I played on the Irish underage teams growing up, under 13s and 17s and stuff, but I never really took cricket very seriously until I was at the under 19 World Cup in 2004. Came back from that tournament and kind of realized that I actually had a little bit of talent and a bit of ability. If I kind of knuckled down and actually took it a bit more seriously, it could be something that could prove to be good and positive for me. So and I suppose with Irish cricketers, there weren't many making a living out of it. Certainly in England, Ed Joyce had just moved to Middlesex when I was about 18 maybe, so he was the first real Irish player to go over and kind of play professionally in the county system. And obviously Owen Morgan followed and Boyd Rankin. Niall, my brother, went over as well in 2002 or 2003 to Kent. So I suppose Ed opened the door for us and kind of opened our eyes to what potentially can happen from an Irish cricketer over in England. And of course, Ireland being an associate nation at the time, we were classed as local players, which was hugely beneficial for us as an individual and obviously us as an Irish team. It's at one stage I think we had 15 or 16 guys playing regularly in county cricket, which was a great breeding ground for us and for us as a team.
That's something that doesn't happen now, isn't it? And I mean, we saw Paul Stirling. He had decisions to make, didn't he? And it's that limits Irish cricket a little bit, doesn't it? Because the county system, as you say, kind of step up really from Irish cricket, a chance to really test yourself against other players. And Irish players aren't able to do that quite as much as they used to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that's I'm not going to say it's stopped the development of Irish cricketers. Obviously, you have the likes of Harry Tector, who's developed, on the fly in international cricket to be one of the best batters in the world at the moment in the 50 over game. But it certainly has, maybe players under Harry, it's potentially stalled their development. I'm going to say stopped the development. They're obviously still developing, but I think it's maybe stalled the development a little bit, which for us and for me in particular, county cricket was massively beneficial for me. I had 2 very good years with the MCC young cricketers in 2004 and 5, which opened my eyes to how to kind of train as a professional and play 5 days a week, back up every day, a 3-day game followed by a 50 over game against very good county second 11. So that was a huge eye opener for me as well. So opportunities like that has gone for many Irish cricketers. Of course, being a test nation now has its pros, but also I think that's a big setback of becoming a test nation is guys can't nip over on a flight and play 10 or 12 first class games, followed by 10 or 12 50 overs and 15 T20s. It's the cricket season here in Ireland is very small in terms of provincial cricket, and it's it's something that's probably not at a high enough standard than where it needs to be.
I had David Visa on the podcast the other day, and I commented when he was on that his Cricinfo page had loads of teams on it. He basically just filled the page with the teams he's played for. You're not quite as prolific as him, but you've got plenty on your Cricinfo page. Yeah, cricket's given you the chance to travel the world and play for a lot of teams, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll be very fortunate. I suppose you can either look at it one way or the other. I haven't performed well enough to establish long-term contracts, or I've performed well enough that teams keep wanting to sign me. But I was very fortunate. I obviously made my debut in the Irish side in 2006, 6 months before the World Cup in the Caribbean. So, I suppose a little bit of luck and a little bit of timing played its part, and then obviously being able to, as you said, travel around and play in the T20 leagues as a result of 2011's innings against England, it kind of opened the door for me to really be a T20, I don't know what you'd call him, a journeyman, or go over and play in various tournaments and play for 4 or 5 counties, which was hugely exciting and very, very enjoyable for me.
You say journeyman, we could say specialist or whatever, but
isn't very, the grammar is not very deep, and vocabulary is not very deep. So specialist is probably a better word.
Before we get on to I'm going to put you through the Cricket Badger 20 questions in a second, but I wanted to talk to you about Italy as well. You've had an involvement with that national team as a coach. You've obviously given up cricket or retired from cricket. Was it 3 years ago or so? You've taken up a role with the Italian national team, and that's pretty exciting at the moment. Qualified for the T20 World Cup, and I kind of the way they've done it. It reminds me a little bit. I mean, kind of the Irish connection there of Jackie Charlton as the manager of the football team, kind of looking out for people that have got Italian connections and bring them into that side. But reading up a little bit about it, it's quite a big thing. I think a lot of the players that kind of maybe from the outside you see as kind of people that have come in and been just drafted in because, ancestors and what have you, they're actually very proud of their Italian roots. And that's become quite a big thing in the camp, hasn't it, in terms of kind of connecting everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved now since 2022. I took over, well, not saying I took over. I got involved in kind of May 2022. And kind of went over initially to kind of scout some players for them, home-based players, and kind of give a review and kind of report back to the federation of what I thought of their abilities and stuff, and from then it kind of snowballed. I went on a few tours in 2022. We had a T20 qualifier in Finland, which I'd never been. I went to Uganda, I went to Jersey, so 3 countries I'd never been to, even as a player. So it's really helped me, and I suppose it's given me the chance to kind of tour again. And since then the team has been on an upward trend. We were very close to qualifying for the last World Cup. We only lost to Ireland by 6 runs in the qualifier in Scotland. So if we had won that match, we would have been in America and West Indies, which was heartbreaking for me. It would have been nice to beat the Irish team, but I think we learned a lot as a management group and as a team from that tournament, and we implemented that last month. And we got over the line against Scotland to qualify for next year's World Cup. So it's a hugely exciting time to be involved with Italian cricket. I've been, as I said, I've been with them for 3 years, and a lot of the players that when I kind of came on board are still involved, the Moscas and the Menentis. So it's great that what they've given for the last 3 years, they've been rewarded with a World Cup now 6 months down the line. So it's a hugely exciting time to be involved, and it's very similar, in my opinion, to where Irish cricket was in 2007. Obviously we went to the World Cup and did what we did, beating Pakistan and Bangladesh and tying with Zimbabwe. So cricket's a funny game. 16 years later, Ireland's a test nation. So I'm not saying Italy is going to be a test nation in 15 years, but we're also very close to becoming an ODI nation. In our 50 over campaign, we're second in the group at the moment behind Uganda. we've got 5 games left in Tanzania in August 2026. So we finish in the top 2 of that group. We get promoted, and we play against the bottom 4 from World Cricket League 2, which is like, Nepal, USA, Scotland, Holland, that division, and the top 4 from that gets ODI status. So it's close for us, and it's exciting to be involved. And the federation have realised that it's important now that, as a result of qualifying for this World Cup, that the facilities and the infrastructure in Italy is improved drastically, because at the moment there's no grass wickets to play on. There's a couple of grounds that have artificial turf nets, which is an upgrade from a couple of years ago. But these are the things that need to be in place, so the next generation of Italian cricketers, home-based Italian cricketers, can get excited by seeing the national team on the world stage and take up a cricket bat and a cricket ball and try and play.
Do you have split loyalties when you're taking on Ireland? I mean, you said that it'd have been nice to have beaten them, but obviously you're very much an Irish man. So how do you kind of deal with that in the mind?
I mean, it's my job now is to coach, to be assistant coach of Italy. So I mean, it's obviously I'm very friendly with some of the guys still, but once we're there to play, and I want to win, because I know for me personally it'll be a huge upset for Italian cricket to beat the Test nation, and then obviously from my own point of view, from my own development as a coach, and it's only going to be positive for me going forward.
The task of kind of identifying some players with Italian heritage and then getting them into that squad. Whose brainchild was that? Because you could have, whoever took over Italian cricket could have quite easily just stuck with the homegrown players and just carried on doing the normal stuff. But bringing in some of the some quite high profile players. Emilio Gay is playing for them. You got Wayne Madsen there as well. Burns the captain. There's a lot of experience there that has been drafted into Italian cricket. What was the process there?
I think it started under when Gareth Berg was head coach and player. He identified some players. I think he played with Emilio in Northants, and obviously got to know that Emilio's mother is Italian. And obviously, and through county cricket, Grant Stewart, his mum is Italian, and obviously Wayne's grandparents are Italian. So I think just word spread, and I think just PR and social media probably helped, and people in the federation gets emails from players down in Australia and stuff like that. So I think having Peter Di Venuto down in Tasmania, Michael's brother, obviously Michael played for Italy, and so did Peter. So Peter's always on the lookout of people with Italian heritage down in Tasmania and Sydney and Melbourne and stuff. And there's a huge community down in Australia of people who have Italian parents and Italian grandmothers and stuff. And you mentioned the piece, and you mentioned in your question there about people who are really connected to that heritage. It was very emotional. Before we went to Holland, everyone in the room, all the players stood up and kind of gave their history and what brought them to Italy and what brought them to Italian cricket. Some of the stories were very emotional, and guys really are connected to that side of their family. And I suppose that's really important to hear and to see from a coach's point of view, because the players are invested. They're not just here to come and take. They want to give back, and people are the players, AJ Moscas and the Menentis and Burnsy. They're talking about giving back to Italian cricket, and they're speaking Italian with the home based players, and it's really, really close knit group. And they're very passionate about the Italian side of their family, and that's great to be involved with that in the squad.
I'll single out Wayne Madsen because he's somebody I know a little bit, and he's a lovely bloke, and he could quite easily have played international cricket for South Africa. He could have played international cricket for England. He's good enough, I think, to have done both, but the opportunities never arose. But it's a chance for somebody like him to actually experience international cricket, slightly different way, but to kind of get involved with a national team and experience that environment, isn't it?
Absolutely. Wayne's been involved now since 2023. So he was in the last T20 qualifiers in Scotland. And then he came to Malaysia with a crucial 50 over relegation kind of division where we needed to finish in the top 2. And we did, thankfully, to get to stay in the current division we're in. So Wayne came to Malaysia and really bought into what what we're trying to achieve at the federation, and what the management are trying to achieve. And he's been great from a batting point of view. That obviously the knowledge he has and the experience he has, as well as the skill that he has, is second to none. So he's been amazing to have around the group, and for me as a coach to be able to speak to him about batting, it's been great for me to be able to learn from him and pick his brains about how he goes about it, so then I can hopefully try and implement some of that in my own coaching style and philosophy going forward.
He didn't play in the most recent qualification rounds, did he? Was that because he's Derbyshire captain and he prioritised that? Is that a difficult balancing act sometimes to get the guys that are playing county cricket to commit?
Yeah, I mean that's the main reason. And it was unfortunate. It would have been great to have him there. He's such a good player and he adds a lot of value to the team. Again, speaking from when I was playing with Ireland, before we were ODI nation and before we were a Test nation, and before ODIs were mandatory release, for example, it was tough for Irish cricket to get players to be released from the counties, because the counties are would say to the players, and rightfully so, listen, you can go and play, but if a player comes in and does well, who's replacing, it'll be hard for you to get your place back, and that's ultimately what you want from a team and a coach. That's going to be the message you send back. So it's very difficult. Thankfully we had Grant and Emilio available for the full 4 games in Holland. And the coaches at Kent and Durham were super supportive in letting the guys come and chasing that dream of going to a World Cup. And we saw the performances from Emilio and Grant in the tournament. They're crucial players for us, and thankfully we had them there for the week.
Very good players, aren't they? In terms of aspirations for this World Cup, then, I mean, it is reminiscent of Ireland, and obviously you were part of that, kind of going in and kind of dipping your toes in the water and seeing how you got on. Are there real aspirations to win a match? What's kind of the aim there to get a point on the board, qualify? What's kind of the ceiling?
Absolutely. I mean, we're going over to try and win as many games as we can. We know we've got a talented team. We know we've got some match winners in the team. So for us, it's just all about being ultimately prepared for the tournament, and obviously that's what Joe brings as a captain. He brings meticulous planning to the table. So we will be very prepared, absolutely, as a team going in, and then it's just all about executing the skills on the day. But we're not under any illusions. It's going to be very difficult. We'll see what the draw pans out once the Africa and Asia and East Asia Pacific qualifiers are done now, kind of middle September, October time. And once the groups are, we'll start planning for that. But I'm expecting us to be in with 3 test teams. And if it's done something vaguely from rankings, it's probably going to be something like, maybe West Indies, New Zealand, and Zimbabwe, for example, if Zimbabwe qualify, and potentially maybe Ireland or Holland as well. So, we'll obviously be the lowest ranked team. We'll be coming in because we're ranked number 25th at the moment, unless something drastic happens in one of the next 2 qualifiers. We will be the 24th ranked team or the 20th ranked team in the tournament. So we'll be the last name out of the hat, which is exciting to see who we will be matched up against.
It's exciting though, isn't it? Yeah, going and you got a team there that's been playing on that the associate level to go and actually pit your wits against the big boys. That's an adventure, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think it's regardless of the results. I think it's a great tournament and an opportunity for Italian cricket to grow. Obviously on the field in terms of performances, but also off the field in terms of revenue and sponsorship, and improving infrastructure and the facilities at home. So, hopefully this can be a kind of a springboard for Italian cricket to push forward and see where we can get to. Because as I said, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, Ireland we're just an associate nation, and all of a sudden now it's test nation. So things can move very quickly in the cricketing world, as we've seen. So we'll just keep our head down and keep pushing forward and putting one foot in front of the other and being as prepared as we can going forward and see where that takes us.
Last question on Italy, and it is a bit more flippant, but we talked about the language and what have you. Have you been on Duolingo? Have you been tapping away trying to get your Italian up to scratch?
Yeah, I've been doing Duolingo on and off for a year or so now, and I've got an Italian tutor here from Dublin, an Italian girl who she's here studying English. So yeah, it's something that I'm trying to do. It's just difficult, at the age of 41 now. Learning languages becomes a little bit more difficult. But I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to speak as much as I can, when I'm around the team, speaking in Italian and trying to pick up a few words every day.
Well, we'll leave Italy there. We're going to come back in a second and go through the Cricket Badger 20 questions. But I should say thank you to the two sponsors of the Cricket Badger podcast. Seatfrog.com, get your tickets, your train tickets, and cheap upgrades to first class on the trains with Seatfrog. And also to Match Bingo. You can play cricket on Match Bingo. You can you get the card and you're looking for lines and full houses and what have you, and gamble responsibly, but it's a little bit of fun as well. But here's the advert for Seatfrog.com.
We all want a bit of that first class lifestyle, right?
Well, with Seatfrog, you can travel first class on trains for a lot less.
We're talking up to 60% off first class tickets using our upgrade options.
Think eBay, but for train tickets.
Win your upgrade and you can enjoy food, drink, and a whole lot of legroom. Forgot the alcohol.
It's beyond simple to sign up and start bidding. Just download Seatfrog and upgrade your ticket today.
Quote Cricket Frog, and you'll get £5 off your next train travel. Got Kevin O'Brien with me today, former Irish great, I would suggest, and we'll go through the 20 questions on the Cricket Badger 20 questions. And the first one, Kevin, is if not a cricketer, what would you have done? You talked about being kind of born into an Irish cricket family, but what was the other routes in terms of making money and making a living?
I wanted to be an architect, so that was my first choice coming out of school. But then realised that I probably wasn't clever enough to get accepted into the course, so had to change my mind quickly.
What's been the biggest influence? Who has been the biggest influence on your cricket career?
Yeah, I think Dad and Niall probably. Obviously Dad is a bit of a local legend here in club cricket, and played 52 times for Ireland over 18 years. So growing up probably as a young kid watching Dad, but not really knowing I was watching him, probably subconsciously had a huge effect on me. And then obviously playing with Niall for 15 years in the Irish team was pretty cool and pretty special. So yeah, Niall and Dad would be the two probably who had the biggest influence.
And you've both kept involved with cricket. Obviously, you, as we've already talked about in the coaching side of things, but I often turn the telly on to watch a cricket match, and your brother's rabbiting away on the commentary, so he's very much involved still. Yeah,
absolutely, and he's a player agent as well, so he's kind of doing bits and pieces. But yeah, he's busy, busy on the cricket side of things off the field.
If I could take you back to any day in your cricket life and you could relive it from start to finish to experience the highs again, the good moments you had that day, which day would you choose?
Probably Bangalore 2011. I think would be number one.
I thought you might say that. I forgot actually, and I put out on Twitter a request for questions for you. I did get a couple in, and one was, do you regret your pink hair?
Yeah, no, not at all. Obviously, so the story behind that was a local radio station here in Ireland, Today FM. Every year they do a shave or die campaign for cancer. So they got in touch with our media manager at the time, and that's why a few of the guys had, I think William Porterfield had green hair, although you couldn't really see it. A few of the guys shaved their head, but I went for the bright pink. But no, I don't regret it. It was a bit of fun. When you're young, you can do that kind of stuff, without anyone really worrying about or caring what anyone really thinks.
It was a hell of a day that for you, though, wasn't it? And for Ireland, because England had posted a decent score. I think it was the highest chase ever. It was you had the fastest 100 ever. It was
a couple of records. I think it was the highest chase. Well, was it? I don't know if it still is, but I think at the time it was the highest successful run chase in the World Cup. Obviously, my innings was the quickest 100 in the World Cup. I think there was a couple of other records as well that were broken. But yeah, I think England got 325, and yeah, it was a special day for me, obviously personally, but from the team's point of view, it was just amazing. To just the way we won, it was a pretty convincing win in the end. If you look at it, yeah, it was just a great day to be involved, and something that will stick with me and the guys involved and people fans of Irish cricket for a long time.
Was it you? I think you were 4 down when you came in and 5 down not long after you arrived at the crease. And at that period, are you thinking, right, is it respectability you're looking for? Should we have a hit and a bit of a giggle and see where we get to? And at what point does it transform into actually we can do this? We can chase this now. We're going well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, as I said, I think we were 111 for 5 when Alex Cusack came out to bat, and I remember saying to Cusy, we may as well just have a go here and try and if you get bowled out for 150, off 30 overs, it doesn't really matter. Rather than tap it around and get 230 or 240 and lose, that kind of thing. So I think I don't know if that caught England on the hop potentially for a couple of overs. We also took the power play. If you remember back then. The batting took 5 over power plays at any time after the 15th over or something. A lot of teams kind of saved it to the 35th to 36th over to 40. I think we took it on over 29 or something like that, or 26 or something. So we took it so early compared to what other teams do. And I think we got 65 or something off the power play. And that kind of put us back in the game. I think, we were probably 200 for 5 then, with maybe 17 overs to go, something like either 120 odd off 17 overs. And I kind of had a feeling then that if, myself or Cusy were there at the end, we'd win. Because it was only at 6.5, 7 over, which, in Bangalore and on the wicket we were playing on, and there was a pretty small boundary with altitude. It was pretty straightforward if one of us was there at the end. So I kind of deliberately shifted down a couple of gears, certainly after the power play, and just kind of took what England were kind of giving me, and all the fielders were on the edge of the ring. So we were picking up 6 and over easy enough, and we were getting the odd boundary every second over. So yeah, it was kind of from just after the power play, it kind of sunk in, saying that we can actually win this. We're back in, and England were pretty flat and deflated at that point.
You pick up on that because obviously when you first arrive at the crease, England are going to be buoyant. They're taking a load of wickets and they're on top, and then you suddenly start to turn that round. Can you sense that the air's coming out of their balloon and you're on top? Yeah,
and you can feel it. Obviously, from a personal point of view, I was picking up length pretty well, and there wasn't much swing, or there was not very much spin. And yeah, I just kind of was super proactive and kind of moving around the crease, and England bowled it where I wanted them to bowl it, if that makes sense. So when I shifted away from the stumps, Yardy followed me, into my pads, which was an easier sweep around the corner and that type of thing. So yeah, just everything fell into place. It's just one of those days where obviously trained super hard for it, and prepared well for it in the lead up to the tournament, and just thankful that it was me that was there on the day, and in the biggest situation in India, which is such a mad cricket country. It just probably highlighted and escalated what had happened.
You mentioned earlier that match or that day, your reputation as a result of that one innings goes through the roof, doesn't it? And does the phone start ringing and you start getting interest from people immediately, or is that a slow burn? How does that happen? Because the teams that you've played for since that, obviously that's high on your CV, and that's a big point of interest when people are signing you.
Yeah, absolutely. I signed for Gloucestershire then in that summer 2011 for white ball cricket, and then just from then it kind of just snowballed. I went to Somerset then the year after, 2 years at Surrey, 2 years at Leicester, so 6 years in a row in county cricket playing as a white ball, 40 or 50 over and T20, and was fortunate enough to play in Afghanistan Premier League, down in New Zealand for a couple of seasons, Caribbean Premier League for a couple of seasons, Canada Global T20. So yeah, it's very fortunate. It's a lot of the teams I've played for, has been as a result of that innings in 2011. So, without that innings, I probably wouldn't have played. Well, I wouldn't have played for half as many teams that I did.
Yeah, it was a fantastic match. I mean, obviously, from my point of view, it was a terrible match, but as an Englishman, but yeah, a fantastic game. And the flip side of that question, the next question is, what's the worst day that you've had as a cricketer? What's the day that, if I told you you had to relive it, you'd say, no, James, I'm not going back there.
Probably my last game for Ireland. Would be pretty disappointing. Now, at the time, I didn't realise it was going to be my last game. But it was the World Cup against Namibia in Sharjah, where myself and Sterlo got off to a good start. I think we were 60 for 65 off the power play.
Yeah.
In a must-win game. It was before the World Cup expanded, so it was like the pre-qualifier before the World Cup, if that makes sense. So we were playing Namibia, and we had a good power play, but we only ended up, so we were 60 odd off the power play, and we ended up getting only 125 or something. And then Namibia knocked it off for 2 or 3. I think Visa came in and hit a quick fire 25 or something, or 30, and they knocked us out. They went through to the second phase, and we went home. So, and ultimately that was my last match. So probably that one, if I could take that back and relive that again, maybe tell the boys to, or maybe try and carry that partnership myself and Sterlo had a little bit longer.
I like you where you answered that. You basically you went from a day you don't want to relive again to a day you want to go back and put it right. I like that. Change destiny. Who was your cricket hero when you were young? Was there a player, a poster boy that you kind of looked up to? You thought, I want to be him.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, I used to be a bowler who could slog a couple at the end. I mean, I batted 9 or 10 for my club team for many years. And even on the Irish underage teams, I was more of an opening bowler who would bat 8 or 9. I was a big fan of Sean Pollock. Obviously with the similar coloured hair. I just adored how he bowled his line of length. Obviously he was pretty quick, but he was super accurate and a great foil for Alan Donald in the South African opening pair. I also loved Darren Gough. So we would have lost, myself and Niall would have watched a lot of Australia v England cricket, Ashes on BBC, back in the day. So Niall was always Australia. He was a big Steve Waugh fan. So I obviously had to be England. So for me, I was a big fan of Darren Gough. Super opening bowler. A little bit like me, come in and kind of slog a few towards the end, but not really concentrate too much on his batting. But so those two when I was younger, and then Flintoff in 2005. Obviously that series against Australia captured a lot of people's imaginations and a lot of people's hearts on how cricket should be played and can be played. But Flintoff during that series was obviously a superstar, and really liked the way he went about his cricket.
Well, when you were growing up in Ireland, you and Niall going to school and what have you, I from the outside, I don't see Ireland as being kind of like full of cricket fans at school. Were there other kids at school that were into cricket with you, or were you kind of standing out as being the cricket nerds or whatever?
There was one so the school we went to was just right beside Lansdowne Road. There was one other fella played cricket. He was a member of our club, Roger Whelan, who went on to play for Ireland actually. Played 6 or 7 times for Ireland. So he was in the school as well. He was in the same class as Niall. So we were the only 3 really that played cricket, but it wasn't really broadcast. Not saying that it was frowned upon, but you wouldn't really be going around, shouting from the rooftops that you were off to play cricket and stuff. So you just kind of kept your head down. And if someone asked you, said, "Yeah, I'm going off playing cricket or something," but you wouldn't be walking around with your cricket bat to school.
Next question on the list is, if you could trade lives with any current cricketer and you could jump into their body, live their life, have their skills and be them for 24 hours, which cricketer would you pick and why?
It's a tricky one. I think for me, I'm a pretty, reserved person, and I like to be kind of in my own company quite a lot. So I don't think I wouldn't pick an Indian cricketer because it's just too mad. It's just too mad over there. That probably any subcontinent cricketer. Who could I be? Maybe Jofra Archer or something, who has the ability to hit someone in the head if they want. I've never been able to do that at 73 an hour or whatever I bowled. So maybe a quick bowler who you could really put fear into the batters for one day. It'd be sore though. You know, you'd finish finish a day of a test match, and you'd be in bits. So I don't know. Maybe Joffrey Archer.
I have to think with Joffrey that he kind of makes it look so easy. He just ambles in and bowls at 94 miles an hour sometimes, and as you say, hits people on the head. But I think that sometimes from the outside, it looks like he's not putting much effort in, but there's a hell of a lot of effort going into every ball he's bowling, isn't there? And sometimes I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves for that, because Mark Wood, who runs in, ends up on the floor in a heap and looks like he's busting a gut. I think people admire him more in a way because he looks like he's trying harder, but Joffrey's still trying.
Absolutely. You know, you don't bowl 90 mile an hour without trying, you know. He obviously has, you know, super fast twitch fibers, or, you know, fast twitch muscles that he has, that he can just, you know, that's how he does it. So he's a pretty lucky guy to be able to do it, and obviously England are extremely lucky to have him in their team.
I'm going to put you in charge of world cricket for a day at the penthouse office at the ICC. There's Kevin O'Brien on the door. You get to your desk. What's the first thing you change? What's the first thing you do as the boss of world cricket?
I mean, probably just I'd bring in 2-tier Test cricket for sure. You know, certainly I think Ireland and Afghanistan and Zimbabwe need to be playing more Test cricket. You know, they don't need to be playing against England and Australia all the time, but they certainly need to play more games, and, you know, against like the likes of Bangladesh and, you know, West Indies. You know, and if it's 6-6 or 7-5, you know, Pakistan are in Division 2 on the current rankings. I think I've seen on Twitter and stuff. That would be one change. I'd probably maybe alter the funding a little bit. I don't think one country should be earning 60% of all the money that they get. You know, I think there's a lot of countries that are trying to do some great things below the top 12. You know, that struggle on the funding they get. Obviously, sponsors and all that kind of stuff aren't sponsoring the smaller teams as much as they'd like, but certainly the funding model needs to be altered slightly to help the emerging nations kind of gather pace and pick up pace with cricket.
It just needs to be. Needs to make it sustainable, so the smaller nations can actually afford to play Test cricket and not make a loss from having a 3-match series or something. Because at the moment, even New Zealand, I think at home they struggle to have anything more than a 2-match series. Otherwise, they lose money. And if New Zealand is struggling, then Ireland and some of the smaller, you know, Afghanistan and whoever else are going to be really struggling, aren't they?
Absolutely, and I mean, it's like the guys here in the Irish side, they want to play Test cricket. Absolutely, you know, it's the pinnacle of the game. It's really what pits the best against the best. You know, from a technical and tactical skill, mental point of view. You know, it's got 4 or 5 things that you've got to really be world class at to be successful. So, you know, it's you know, obviously Ireland have played, and I think maybe 10 tests or something we've played. You know, but you know, we've been a Test nation since 2018, so 7 years we've been a Test nation, nearly going on 8, and we've only played 10 or 12 tests.
You played did you play the first 3? I know you've played 3 tests, but what was that like? That first match for Ireland. I mean, you made a century in it, I think, didn't you? To be part of an Irish team that actually played Test cricket.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. You know, I think it was emotional few days for us. You know, obviously as a team, we'd spoken about, you know, people that had come before, and, you know, people who laid the foundations and laid the path for us to do it. And, you know, obviously eternally grateful for the guys who have come before for us and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was, and there was a big crowd there, you know, for day one. Unfortunately, it was rained off, but, you know, when we got out in the field, it was, it was a pretty cool experience to be able to play Test cricket. And to be fair, we were an experienced team in first class cricket, you know, through the ICC Intercontinental Cup, which we'd played for since, you know, probably for 12 years, and we'd won it 3 times. You know, so that was 4-day cricket played amongst the 6 or 7 best associate teams. So, like, I mean, I'd played something like 40 odd first class games, you know, in the 6 or 7 years before playing that Test match. So, I mean, it's not like our players were inexperienced in red ball cricket, but, you know, I think that's something that the ICC need to look at reintroducing, is that intercontinental. If they're not going to go down 2 Test divisions, they need to bring some kind of multi-day cricket for, you know, the likes of, you know, Nepal, Canada, Scotland, Holland, Oman, Namibia, because it's what as a cricketer, I think you become a much better cricketer from playing red ball cricket. Your skills become better, your consistency comes better as a bowler. Your stock ball becomes better, and then as a batter, you've obviously got to know where your off stump is. You've got to have a solid forward defense, which you still need in 50 over cricket, not necessarily in T20, but for a cricketer to become a better individual cricketer, I think you need to be playing more 4-day cricket.
I'm interested in the two-tier thing because Atif Nawaz, the commentator, he tweeted the other day, and I actually agreed with this, and I want you to kind of tell me why I shouldn't agree with this. So I'm going to read his tweet out. It's quite a long one, so just bear with me a sec. He says, "Can I explain how much I hate this 2 tiers of Test cricket proposal? It's not a scheme to save Test cricket, only further isolate countries who already don't get enough high-profile fixtures. Instead of repeating the same series over and over again, each Test playing nation should be compelled to play one another at a neutral venue if need be." He's talking about Pakistan, India there, I guess, in at least one series every 4 years. If everyone played everyone an even number of times, it would make some sense to introduce a promotion stroke relegation style setup. But we know that isn't going to happen. Forget India, Pakistan. How often do England play against Bangladesh? Or anyone play Ireland? Why would any other country aspire to Test cricket when the chance of a marquee series has yet another obstacle in place? The only way to save Test cricket is to make it more equitable, not turn it into an even smaller club featuring the same contest over and over again, with the law of diminishing returns sure to kick in. Hope this asinine idea goes no further. Either that or stop pretending this is about saving Test cricket and admit it's just for more short-term monetary gain. And I guess what he's saying is if you've got like the big boys playing each other all the time, they're going to make all the money. And if Ireland and some of the smaller countries are just playing each other in kind of series that nobody's going to be watching or interested in, is that actually going to help them?
Well, I think it will help the smaller teams, inverted commas, because the players are playing more Test cricket than they're currently playing. So that's a win anyway. Ireland don't have any Test matches this year.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. When you qualify to get Test status, you should be playing Test cricket, and I can't understand why there's not a calendar or the ICC are not actually encouraging Ireland to play at least 3 or 4 tests a year. It's just madness, isn't it?
Financially, it works out too expensive. But I mean, I think if there was a future tours program for Test cricket, like there is for 50 over cricket, like there was for this World Test Championship, which doesn't make sense because you don't play everybody in that World, which doesn't make sense. I mean, it's done on percentages and all this kind of stuff. So. Yeah. I don't understand the World Test Championship in terms of all that. So I think 2 divisions good. If a team in Division 2 wins it, they get promoted. Simple as that. You see Chelsea going to play Shrewsbury Town in football because Shrewsbury are in a different division. But if Shrewsbury Town were to get promoted 2 divisions into the Premier League, they play Chelsea, and they get more funding, they get more sponsors, they get more TV revenue, etc., etc. So the TV revenue is one that needs to be the funding needs to be changed because simply of that, not saying that Ireland need to get loads more money, but they need to get a little bit more money, to kind of help them play Test cricket or help them do whatever they need to do. But the carrot at the end of the day for the smaller teams is to get promoted. So if Zimbabwe get promoted after winning 10 Test matches out of 15, they're in Division 1, and England get relegated. They're in Division 2. That's exactly what it is. That's what you want. And if India get relegated, that they get relegated. You know what I mean? There's not like, I know it's easier said than done sitting here in Dublin. I can say those things, but ultimately you either do it or you just don't, and you just play. You get rid of the World Test Championship, or you include all the Test teams in the World Test Championship, because not everybody plays everybody in the World Test Championship as far as I know. Isn't it just 8 series over 2?
Yeah. Well, India never play Pakistan at all, do they? Because of obviously political reasons. So it's never going to be a fair World Test Championship if 2 of the so-called bigger nations are not actually playing each other ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose maybe that tweet has come about because Pakistan are going to be in Division 2. If it's 6 and 6. Now, I think maybe have it 7 and 5. Try and keep everyone happy, but at the end of the day, you can't keep everybody happy. So it's a tricky one, but I think something needs to be needs to be done to try and I'm not saying improve or not saying save Test cricket. Test cricket will always be around. You'll always have the Ashes. You'll always have India v England. You'll always have India v Australia. So Test cricket will always be on. Okay, whether it just might be less than it was 10 years, 12, 15 years ago. But there'll always be Test cricket. Players will still want to play Test cricket. But by having 2 divisions, you're actually allowing more players and more teams to play more Test cricket.
If you have the 2 divisions, you've got to make sure some of that money from the top tier dribbles down to the second tier, haven't you, and supports that second tier.
So
And
like all the funding for TV revenue for all the Test matches gets split. I don't know, a fair percentage gets funded, trickle down into the teams in Division 2.
Problem with it, I mean, I don't know if you're a Eurovision Song Contest fan, but there's like 4 funders of the Eurovision Song Contest that always make the final, and I could see a 2-tier test system where India, Australia, and England make sure that they can't be relegated, which that in itself would be wrong, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and then there's no real point in doing it. Just have 3 test divisions, have the guys at the top and that never get relegated, then have the middle 3 or 4 and have the bottom 3 or 4.
If you were starting your career again today, Kevin, and you could speak to, or you now could speak to kind of like the 12-year-old you, what advice would you give that youngster? And equally, the other way around, that 12-year-old looking at you now, would he be proud of where you've got to?
I think the 12-year-old would be proud. Would be pretty shocked of what my career transpired. Would I give any advice to a young me? Probably not. I think my career panned out, the way it did because of what I did and who I am. Really, I've always been a pretty laid back, easygoing person when it comes to cricket. So I think that kind of rubbed off, and maybe that's that personality and those traits were the reason why I did what I did in 2011 under that in that situation. So kind of a laissez-faire, and kind of not saying I didn't give a damn, but that kind of attitude of we'll just have a crack and see what happens, and that's what happened.
Thank you so much, Bingo. We're going to play their advert now, and then we're going to come back and fire through the rest of the 20 questions. I mentioned earlier, Kevin, that there are some serious ones and some more frivolous ones. We're going to get onto the more frivolous ones in just a second now, but I should say thank you to Match Bingo for their support of the Cricket Badger podcast. If you put Cricket 200 in when you make your deposit, you get 200% profit on your initial deposit. Always gamble responsibly.
Let's go.
There you go. Download the app, Match Bingo, and thank you for their support of the Cricket Badger podcast. Kevin O'Brien, my guest today, and let's rattle through these more frivolous questions, Kevin, to finish off the pod today. Who would play you in a movie about your life? They're going to make O'Brien the movie. Who's the lead actor?
Probably the guy from Harry Potter. Not Harry, the other guy.
The Ron Weasley one. You can just go down the red hair bit, aren't you? There. They say all rock stars want to be sportsmen and vice versa. If you could have been famous or well known doing something else, what would you have liked to have done?
Musician would be pretty good. Music, another sport, maybe something like NFL or something. Pretty cool to be like a tight end or something.
Yeah.
Jason Kelsey or something. Or Travis Kelsey would be pretty cool.
If you could meet anybody, living or dead, who would you like to meet? It's that kind of dinner party question. I'll give you 2 or 3 if you want. But if anybody that you've never met that you'd like to have a chat with?
Jeez, you've stumped me now. I'll go for Well, I've met Viv Richards once or twice during the Caribbean Premier League. So I love the way he played cricket. He'd be one. Trying to think anyone else? Denzel Washington would be pretty cool. He's a cool actor. I love him.
Yeah.
And then who else would be a bit of fun? No, probably just maybe just probably a few, but definitely those two. I think I like Denzel's movies, and obviously Viv from a cricketing point of view.
What would be the top item on your bucket list? Things to do before you die? Is there anything you'd love to tick off before that? Hopefully, in a long time that day happens.
I've got a bucket list with my wife. When the kids are old enough, we're going to go playing golf around the best courses in the world. So she's already played Pebble Beach about 10 years ago.
Oh wow!
So play Augusta or something would be pretty cool.
All cricketers like golf, don't they?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean we're any good at it. But yeah.
But you can play good courses. I mean, that's the beauty of golf, isn't it? No matter what your handicap is, you can play pretty much any course in the world. What's the are you a morning or a night person? Do you wake up in the morning full of the joys of spring, or are you somebody that takes a while to get out of bed?
No. Once I wake up, I'm up and out. So which is good when you got two kids. You can get up and you can kind of start the day and get their lunches made and get everything ready before they even think about getting up. But no, for me, I'm up early and I'm in bed quite early as well.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the Fonz, really cool, and 1 being me, really uncool, what kind of number on that spectrum are you? How cool is Kevin O'Brien?
3 or 4, probably. Bit of a nerd.
If you had access to a time machine, you can take it forwards or backwards. I've just delivered it outside your front door. Where would you take it? It doesn't have to be a cricket destination. You can go forward in time to see what happens. You can go back in time to relive any moment.
Don't know. I mean, I'd like to know what the future holds. Maybe go forward 10 years and see kind of where my children are at and how they're getting on, and how we're getting on, and then kind of nip back. But I don't know if the risk with that is you might see something you don't like.
Yeah.
That and it has you worried. So maybe go back might be a safer option.
Yeah, going forwards is fraught with risk, isn't it? Although you could write down every Grand National winner and make a lot of money, couldn't you, in the next few years? If you could live anywhere in the world, I'm going to get you a second house. The Cricket Badger podcast has got no end of budget. Where would you like to stick your that house that I'm buying?
What I think is that like kind of like a holiday home.
Anything you want.
Yeah, you know what you like. I'm sure people say, "Oh, have one in Australia," but that's 24 hours away on a flight. So it would need to be somewhere close-ish to Ireland. We holiday every year in the west of Ireland in Connemara. Basically, it's like an hour and a half past Galway. The next bit of land is America, and my wife loves it out there. So I'd say we maybe get a holiday home over there. It's about 3.5 hour drive, so you nip over for a long weekend. On a Thursday afternoon when the kids finish school, nip over and then come back on Sunday night. Probably over in Connemara.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would you change?
Well, when I played before I matured a bit was probably my fiery temper. So I've got a little short fuse. I don't know where we get that from, but maybe from Mum.
Is that the red hair? I mean, that's basically the kind of the thing with red hair is that you're supposed to have a bit of a short fuse, aren't you?
Yeah, we do. I do.
We're getting towards the end of this, Kevin. It's been really good to have you on the podcast. What would you be doing in 10 years' time? Is it going to be coaching? Is that going to be a long-term thing for you?
I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? I suppose that's go back a few questions. I could fast forward 10 years and see which team I'm coaching. If I am coaching, I might be unemployed by then. But yeah, coaching is an option. I'm obviously really enjoying it at the moment. I've got obviously the stuff with Italy going on. Got my own private stuff here, some one-on-ones and small groups here in Ireland, and coaching my club, the senior team here in the club. So yeah, really, really excited about that, to see where that can go. I'm a qualified umpire. I was looking at going down the umpiring route, and I'm also expressed an interest of potentially in the future becoming a match referee.
Okay.
So there's a few things that potentially I can be doing in 10 years, but hopefully I'll be playing better golf. That's the first thing.
The umpiring thing is interesting. I know Craig White. I used to know him from my time at Yorkshire, and before he went into coaching, he was thinking about going down the umpiring route. And it's a long old day to be stood there behind those sticks, and you've got a bit of pressure on you, haven't you?
That's the only thing, whenever I stand and do like a 20 over game for the women's team here in the club, my back is in bits. Constantly stretching my back and stuff like that. So I don't know how it'd go in a test match, 85 overs in the day, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll find a way.
The final question of the 20 is, if you'd been interviewing yourself today and you've been in my chair, what would you have asked that I haven't? What question have I missed that would have got a great answer?
What was it like playing against Niall, maybe, or with Niall?
Okay.
A lot of people ask that.
And the answer?
Oh, you want me to answer it? I know, it was pretty cool playing with Niall, obviously, for 15 years. It was great to have your brother there in the team and in the nets and stuff and giving you advice and stuff. But playing against him was weird. It kind of really brought back memories of playing in the garden. And I was fortunate enough, I played against Niall probably 3 or 4 times. He was playing for Northants, and I was playing for Ireland in the C&G, or Friends Provident, whatever it was called. I actually got him out. He opened the batting in one game, and I got him out. Bowled a nice wide half volley, and he nicked it to the keeper. Fintan McAllister dived to his left and caught it. And I just kind of ran past him and wheeled away with my arms out like this, like an airplane. Just brought back memories of the garden when he'd nick one to the automatic wicket keeper and slips behind the stumps.
Was it hard because you wanted him to do well as well, or because you wanted to make sure you had the bragging rights and not him?
Yeah, probably a bit of both. I remember there was one time I was batting against Northants, and Niall was keeping, and I hit Nicky Bowyer straight down long off, and I could just sense from Niall from behind the stumps. I got about 15 or something. I could just sense Niall from behind the stumps going, "What are you doing?" He really wanted me to get runs, and obviously just threw it away, just chipped one down to long off. I could sense disappointment as I turned and walked off back towards the pavilion in Montage Road. But yeah, so no, it was obviously it was a weird feeling probably for both of us, but obviously we wanted each other to do well, but of course we wanted our teams to win as well.
You never take the competitor out, do you? So no matter how much you want somebody else to do well, you want to win yourself. Kevin O'Brien, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the podcast today. I really enjoyed chatting to you. Big admirer of yours. So very nice to meet you as well. Good luck with everything you do in the future. Good luck to Italy, and good luck with your coaching and whatever the future may hold. Whatever that time machine shows you when you go forward. Good luck with everything.
Cheers, James. Thanks a million. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody out there, for watching. Thanks to seatfrog.com and to Match Bingo for the support of the Cricket Badger podcast. I will be back soon, and I will see you again soon. Cheers, everybody.